whether it's Republican or Democrat or liberal or conservative. It would be so nice if we could come together and straighten out the world.
Donald Trump's victory with 51% of the vote in Iowa's Republican caucuses means more than nothing, though this overly hyped event looks less like a reliable election result and more like an interesting opinion poll in one state.
The big night is going to be in November.
Only 15% of Iowa's some 720,000 registered Republicans participated.
70% of Americans don't want another Trump-Biden rematch.
With the American presidency being contested primarily over the moral fitness of one man and the mental fitness of another, can anyone be surprised that the Houthis, a Yemeni Shiite tribe, decided that this was the moment to attack global shipping in the Red Sea? In response, the U.S. and U.K. carried out counterattacks against Houthi sites in Yemen.
To deter the proxies themselves by hitting them will not be sufficient. We have got to go after Iran.
A substantial percentage of seaborne shipping, notably oil, travels up the Red Sea and through the Suez Canal. Already, Shell has halted shipments in the region, and the world's major shippers are rerouting around southern Africa at great cost, which consumers will bear.
I've already delivered the message to Iran. They know not to do anything.
Prior to the Israeli-Hamas war, the national security debate in the U.S. and among its Republican presidential candidates was whether we could simultaneously confront China and support Ukraine against Russia. If you were an adversary looking at a U.S. uncertain about its global leadership, what would you do? Answer: up the ante. Pile more pressure onto the world's self-doubting superpower. That is what Iran has done, with other nations happy to stir the pot.
They are in an effort to turn the Red Sea into a sea of blood.
In recent years, there has been a lot of discussion about the stated intention of China's Xi Jinping and Russia's Vladimir Putin to displace the dominant political value system of the United States and its democratic allies in Europe and Asia.
If anyone thinks this is only about us, this is only about Ukraine, they are fundamentally mistaken.
Today, reports from the German Ministry of Defense suggest concerns about a Russian mobilization beyond Ukraine toward NATO's eastern flank.
Let me ask very honestly, which European nation today can provide a combat-ready army on par with ours, holding back Russia? And if one must fight against Putin together in the years ahead, isn't it better to put an end to him and his war strategy now, while our brave men and women are already doing it?
Now let us welcome our next president and vice president, Lai Ching-te and Xiao Mei-ching.
Last weekend, Taiwan's brave people, living in the shadow of communist China, voted to elect a president committed to the island's independence. The question now becomes whether current shortfalls in U.S. defense manufacturing will make it difficult to fill Taiwan's $19 billion order for military weaponry to defend itself against China. This while the U.S.'s southern border sits as an open wound, bleeding migrants and fentanyl into the mainland from all over the world.
Our immigration system is outdated and broken and has been in need of reform for literally decades.
We are past the point of pretending that the current scope and pace of global disorder does not require a financial commitment to rebuilding the U.S.'s defense industrial base. It is not an overstatement to say that the U.S. today needs leadership and vision on the order of Franklin Roosevelt, Harry Truman, or Ronald Reagan.
We are ending all American support for offensive operations in the war in Yemen.
And that was 3 years ago, but the ongoing political pressure from the Democratic Party's left goes far to explain why his national security team has been behind the curve on every important strategic decision.
What do you say to members of your own party who are saying you needed congressional authorization for last night's strike?
They're wrong.
In the meantime, Republicans are again flirting with an isolationist temptation that has become untenable since October. The Iowa caucuses signaled Republican belief in Donald Trump as their national leader.
He's going to be working with us, and he'll be working with us for a long time.
But it remains unclear what Mr. Trump would do on the world stage.
Straighten out the problems and straighten out all of the death and destruction that we're witnessing. That's practically never been like this. It's just so important, and I want to make that a very big part of our message.
The Houthis have voted early on calling America's bluff. Next up, the New Hampshire primary.